In this video, I'm going to be talking about T-side nuke. So if you've made it to this point in the series, you're at the final boss of sides. This is probably the hardest side to play, hardest side to talk about. It's the side that most people struggle with in CSGO and CS2. Nothing's really changed besides some, unique mechanics with smokes and everything. The map is essentially the exact same as it was in Go. And the structure for this video is just going to be a little bit different than the other ones. It's a lot harder to talk about, so I'm going to go over map theory first. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I really recommend, especially if you're a new player, to go watch my Vertigo guide. There's a specific part that I'll link to in the description that talks about the very fundamental idea of how you structure a T-side and how you should think about T-side. Just kind of talks about like a fake map. It's a very general and educational segment, so I'll link to that in the description and then come back to the video when you're done watching that. Okay, so the reason that nuke is so hard is because the CTs get so much control at the very start of the round, and the Ts are basically left with absolutely nothing. Unless you're doing like a rush tactic anywhere on the map, you're basically left with no information other than the CTs. Okay, the CTs have everything. So that means that on nuke, we have to do a lot of extra work compared to other maps to get the CTs to, not know what we're doing at every single round, right? So if you've watched any professional games on nuke, you've definitely seen people throw smokes outside or a smoke to drop vent. All those kind of things are information denial plays. And so what do I mean by this? I'm going to open up the map here. Okay, so let's look at the map of nuke, right? At the very beginning of every round, where do all the CTs go, right? So the inner players, you've got one guy coming up the ladder and he's going to play towards A right about here. You've got the hut player who's going to follow the same path. He's going to play on top of hut. The ramp player is just going to simply come towards ramp. The outside player is going to come somewhere outside. And then the opper / like heaven rotator is going to play somewhere around heaven or wherever he wants to go. But the point is if we start drawing lines of what the CTs have information on at the very start of the round, it starts to look pretty grim for the Ts, right? So the ramp player, he basically has information up to this doorway. The A players only really have to worry about hut and door, right? But they have all of the site. Again, I'm speaking as if the Ts did nothing in the start of the round. If the outside player comes outside, he has information all through here, right? And let's say you don't push up to silo, he has information everywhere. So that leaves the Ts behind this really restrictive box. And so the whole idea of nuke is to break out of that box by using utility. And you have to use a lot of utility to do this. Otherwise, it's just going to be really basic what you're doing, and it's going to be super easy for the CTs to counter everything that you're trying to do. So again, like I mentioned earlier, the most basic way to do this is by throwing the outside smokes, so they land like this. These used to be called the diagonal smokes, but these two smokes right here are probably the most fundamental smokes on this map now. In CSGO, it used to be there were smokes here, right? But now everybody throws these smokes that land here. Just because you can get away with throwing two of them and it gives you more control than just by throwing these smokes, right? I'll show in a second here. But again, when I talk about each spot's specific roles on this map, it's going to get a little weird. It's going to get kind of wonky when I talk about them. And you just have to remember that you're trying to do things that deny information from the other team so that you can group up and surprise them in a certain way, okay? So a lot of the time on this map, you're going to be throwing the outside smokes and maybe going with them, or throwing the outside smokes and popping inner. Throwing the outside smokes and going ramp, throwing the outside smokes and going heaven, right? You can see there's a pattern here. You're starting by blocking one player's information, making this guy have to either nade the smoke or run away and move around, and then based on your call and your read, the information that you get, you hit a site. And so you can see how in a face-it match or in a 5Q or even a team with inexperienced players who don't have a lot of experience on nuke filling roles and knowing how this is going to happen, or people who don't know nades, the map is going to be impossible to play, right? It's so much harder than the other maps. On other maps, you can get away with just kind of walking around and, not really knowing nades and somebody else can do it. But on nuke, if you don't know nades and you don't know where to sit and you don't know how these site pops are going to happen and all the little micro details to give yourself the best chance, you're absolutely fucked. There's no other way to say it, okay? And on the flip side of that coin, right? CT side is pretty easy to play if the other team isn't doing these things to you, right? And so if you've ever played against a pro player on this map, or someone who's way, way, way better than you, they just dominate on T side, because most of the time, I bet when you've played nuke, you've only played against people who have no fucking clue what's going on and they don't know how to, do these things that I'm talking about. And the map's pretty easy. But then once people start doing that to you, it starts to get really hard. So it's important that you learn what is common on T side It takes a lot of time to learn on this map, I'm gonna be honest. Again, like I said, this is the hardest map to learn. But I don't think that should scare you away from trying to learn Nuke, because I think a lot of the angles are really fun. They're really classic. There's a lot of really amazing rounds that come out of this map. So yeah, let's get started talking about the roles. And now for a message from the sponsor of today's video. Skin Club is the best adult case opening site on the internet. Skin Club lets you open cases for real cash with my promo code in the description. Aren't happy with what you got out of a case? Skin Club lets you write it along into an upgrader so you can get your value back with just a little bit of luck. You can deposit easily with all the methods that you see on screen with easy withdrawals. You can also battle against other players or split the difference so that everybody wins. Head on over to Skin Club with my link in the video description for a deposit bonus. Thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring today's video. All right, this is not role specific, but it's really important that at the start of the round, you shoot the glass here at the top of the building. And the reason that you do this is because when you're throwing an A exec, you don't want to have to shoot this glass to get your nades to land properly, because this is the only way to get good nades on A site. So at the very start of the round, you just come here and you just shoot this. And a lot of people, when they're like tilted or like don't want to try, like they won't do this, but literally I want 5 people with Glocks to shoot this, okay? If you have like a Tech 9 or something, or like a Deagle and you're on a force buy, you probably shouldn't shoot them immediately. You should let somebody with a Glock do it, because it'll give away information that you have a Deagle or Tech 9. And you know, there's not really any reason to buy those guns if you might be not saving. So it's gonna be kind of obvious to the other team that like you're on a save buy. So yeah, only shoot this with a Glock. And again, it allows for nades like skylight flashes and stuff to actually go through properly. If the glass was here, it would bounce in a strange way. And you can see that the glass is broken because it's kind of cloudy here versus it's not cloudy here, right? You can see it from spawn, so just make sure you're shooting the glass. Okay, so if you're playing on an open team, or you're playing with like a 5-stack a lot, there should be one person who's used to throwing this nade right here, which is to nade the door. Okay, and so at the start of the video, right, I talked about information denial. And one of the things that happens on this map is that there's a lot of sound cues that make it really obvious that you're doing whatever you're doing. So at the beginning of the round, right, if you come here and you don't nade the door, that means that later in the round, if you want to come through the door, you're going to have to open it. Right? And you hear that huge noise that it makes whenever you open this door, right? And just hit E on it. But if you nade the door at the start, right? Which is something that doesn't really give away any information of what you're doing. Then now, if you want to come outdoor, all you have to do is walk through here. And the point of that is that now it makes the CTs actually have to look at the door, right? They have to be worried like, oh shit, somebody could be walking out door. I got to worry about it, right? I can't just stare at hut. Because let's say this door was closed all the time and your top hut player comes here at the start of the round and he, imagine this door is closed, please. And he sees, oh, the door's not open? Okay, I'm just gonna do this. And then I'll just have my main player like hold main for me, or like the A site player hold A site, right? You know, you can figure out different setups to hold main. But the point is that having the door open adds this layer of complexity for the CTs to have to worry about, where if you don't open it, they don't have to worry about door at all. But so anyways, I want to define this first player as the ramp lurk / door lurk. And the reason I want to define it like that is because there's usually one dedicated player. For example, on FaZe Clan, it's Rops. And you'll always see Rops when the FaZe is doing a strat where they want him to be lurking. He's going to be the one that's towards inner, getting information on what the CTs are doing, like if they're pushing or whatnot. So you as the ramp lurk / door player, there's not really a better name for it. I'm just gonna call you the like inner lurk, have to really be playing your life a lot of the time, right? You really don't want to be dying to CTs who push ramp. So at the very start of the round, CTs can do a play where they flash like this, and they come here, and then if that flash gets thrown against you and you're holding like this, right? If the flash comes and you die, you're really giving your team a bad outlook on the round, okay? So you have to find a way for yourself that you like to play towards ramp and inner, where you're not dying instantly and you're giving yourself a really good chance to win this fight. The flash I threw was kind of bad. Here, let me show you the real one. So it kind of comes like this. And this flash, sometimes it's gonna go deep enough to where it blinds you, right? If you're like, even if you're playing like just a little bit wide, it's gonna destroy you. I have flashes where it'll blind somebody who's like in this corner, right? Sometimes it'll go deep enough. So you really don't wanna be sitting around here. You just wanna be like listening for information. A lot of times CTs will smoke this kind of stuff. And you know, maybe they go for like a walkthrough play, right? where they like walk through like this. So you just have to be ready for all those kind of little bullshit things to happen to you, okay? And since lobby is actually pretty dangerous for the T's because there's so many entrances, especially if you nade the door, you need to really be communicative with your teammates and ask them what they're holding. So if you're like probably one of the best players on your team in a lobby, right? And you have a bunch of little kittens who don't know what to do, you can just tell them, okay, I need somebody to go like this and hold hut. And I need somebody to go door and hold door, or like play like this. And then now you as the ramp lurk are coordinating everybody to sit and hold, okay? So a lot of the times as this player, you're gonna be responsible for lurking and staying alive towards the end round. And so a lot of the times you're gonna be going ramp super late, or maybe walking outdoors super late and getting an entry, right, onto a bomb site when it's like 3v3 or 4v4. So you're kind of a baiter in this role, and that's how you're supposed to play it, okay? So let's say that you're the ramp player and your team decides that they're gonna go 4 people outside and down into lower, right? And it's a pretty obvious play sometimes when this happens. But the most important part for what you're doing as the ramp player is to not go way too early, okay? And so what'll happen if you go early is that this player in ramp, who's the CT, has the chance to maybe like op pick you or like win the fight on you with no trade. And then now your 4 ramp players are completely fucked because this guy's gonna say like, oh, there was only 1 ramp. Oh, they're all down lower. Let me just come and support B, right? And that's what you really don't want for your teammates. You're really a team role player playing this lobby lurk position. So you have to do a very good job of knowing how much risk you're going to take in the round. And that might mean that you bait super late to try to kill somebody who's, maybe you get to this point and you hear somebody rotating down with like an op or something, or just somebody carelessly rotating, then you peek and kill them, right? That's the idea. You don't want to be taking first contact if you're alone. And a lot of the times you're going to be alone in this role. Okay, the next player I want to talk about is the dedicated outside lurk. This is the role that Blame F used to play on Astralis. I'm not too sure what he plays now, but this was the role that he was famous for baiting in a lot of times. That's where he got his nickname for Bait F. But there's a really important thing that I want you to do at the start of every round, okay? So my teams that I've played on have called this setup smoke, but it's the smoke that lands for you to cross towards red, whatever you call it. So this smoke is absolutely crucial for the T side to function properly. Because if you look at how this smoke lands, right? If a CT comes here at the start of the round and sees this smoke, now what this is telling the CT is that there's all these angles that he has to worry about for if he's going to play around here, right? But if this smoke wasn't here, the CT could just do this and have all of outside for free, or he could like hold here with an op. He could just have all of outside control. He obviously has to worry about somebody dropping, but he's going to hear that, right? So he can just play like this and have nothing to worry about. Or if he's playing from here, he has nothing to worry about, right? Because he can just, jiggle like this or like post with an op and kill you if you try to peek him. But now once the smoke is up, it denies that information from the CT and he has to play more back, right? Than he was going to before. So you've probably heard the word pressure a lot. This is a smoke that applies pressure to the CT because now he's feeling pressured that he could get peeked from all these angles. So he might back up, or, maybe he's like running up close. That doesn't matter. But the point is that you're trying to counter a default, right? This is like the standard round that we're trying to play here. But if you're playing this outside position, I really want you to throw this almost every single round, even if the diagonal smokes are getting thrown, because the diagonal smokes take a little bit to land, but this smoke happens almost instantly at the start of the round. So something you got to worry about as the outside player is if you see the CT throwing this Molotov specifically, and it's not going to spread like this per se, because he'll most likely have a CT Molotov, but this Molotov might put out your smoke. So make sure you have a lineup that you can practice where it doesn't get put out by that molly. So I'm going to try it here. Yeah, the lineup I'm showing you is good, right? Because it usually goes over this molly. But that's just something to be aware of. And as the outside player, you probably won't just be playing against this molly if you're playing against somebody who's good. You're going to be playing against the glaive smoke. And I think the most important thing to recognize with why people throw the glaive smoke is on some round in this game, they're probably going to try to either run up into Africa with this smoke as a CT, or they're going to try to go back red, okay? And so the way you deal with this smoke is to not panic and just go a little bit later into the round and not try to rush things too hard to try to clear these people out. Because this smoke makes things really complicated while it's still up. But once this smoke fades and you're able to get your team to throw these smokes on maybe a delayed timing, you just tell your guy to wait. And it's a lot easier for you to just simply throw like pug mollies that land like back red like this, clear out all these angles, and just like slowly take your time and work through and isolate all these fights to just make sure it's all clear, But again, you're going to have to be playing against this smoke, especially once you start playing in higher level lobbies, because it comes out in almost every pro match, and it comes out in almost every high elo lobby, so be ready for it. But one of the things that's unique about the outside lurk compared to the inner lurk is that you have the ability to call round-winning plays off of spawn and kind of play as a secondary caller or IGL on your team, because you have a better idea of how the outside player is playing outside than your IGL might on your pug team or whatever you're playing, right? You can make the call for yourself. And so what that means is a lot of the times you're gonna be somebody who is playing to come in towards main here and split A immediately. Or you think that maybe you can wrap towards heaven. But the point is that you should be trying to get a read on how the player across from you on the CT side is playing outside. So you can know how aggressive or how non-aggressive you have to play the round, right? And again, this is why Nuke is so much harder than the other maps for T side, because a lot of maps don't have advanced things like this that are required to play the map at a high level. Okay, so the next 3 roles, really, they just don't even have names. There's not really a distinct name that I can give them. So I'm just gonna call them like the 3 pack players or the 3 players who float around the map. So this is gonna be like your IGL, your secondary caller, and probably your opper. And so since Nuke is such a strat heavy map where you're going to have to be running a lot of ideas most of the rounds, right? You can't just get away with playing on Mirage and let's swing mid. Like you can't really just do that on this map. So these players are going to run around to different areas of the map where they see fit based on how the round is called and what you want to do as a team. So what I recommend is if you want to carry your Nuke games, you should play this role or one of these roles where you're just kind of floating and you're not hard deady lurking, because you get a better picture of how the other team is playing the start of their rounds. You get to see if people are fucking shit up, and you can try to abuse that. And generally you're going to be in a lot of the action on most of the rounds, or throwing nades. It really depends. So if you're one of these players who's not the dedicated lurkers, you should probably learn these smokes. So I saw these from Brokey. There's like a billion ways to throw these, but I think this is probably the simplest. So you come here onto this like bugged texture right here. You have a teammate drop you a smoke. They can just drop it anywhere in this general area. And then these are the diagonal smokes. So the first one is right here. It's just a standard jump throw. And the second one is right here. And then if you want to throw top main smoke, it's right. I found this lineup from a demo. You come into this right here at the start of the round. And then I look for this guy right here. And then this link, just right in the middle, it's a jump throw. And so this is kind of like your standard 2024 Nuke smoke wall. And all of these smokes can just be combined in different ways. Like you can just throw this main smoke if you want to on its own, and then you can just throw the diagonal smokes if you want to. If you're IGLing on your team or like you're calling for people, most people will understand that these are the diagonal smokes, but some players who are new might not understand that you can still get peeked from heaven here, or you can fight heaven. So a lot of the times you're gonna have to like throw a flash towards outside, for your teammates to fight red, or you can just walk along these smokes like this. And so unlike your standard default round, you're probably wondering like, where do I sit as these players? So it's pretty simple. Usually one player, like I talked about in the ramp section, will come up on blacktop here and hold hut. Just like this is a really strong way to hold hut. And then you'll have another player who maybe your ramp player didn't have a nade, so somebody should be responsible for holding door. And you can do stuff like jump on here and hold for somebody wide swinging nitro and just kill them. Or just come back door like this and play here. This is a pretty safe spot. And again, if you get mollied, you can just like right click one. And you're pretty safe back in door here. But the point is that you're trying to counter the early like CT lobby crunches and early aggression, because those are plays that are really strong on CT side if you're not expecting them, and they can kind of just like lose you a game if you lose a round when you're down a lot. You know, you really want to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. So if you're this player who tends to play more towards lobby here and like top hut, you just got to be worried about people playing inside of the hut position. So people who are super aggressive with the op will like come here with the op on CT side and try to like get an early angle posted like this, or like even try to go even deeper. So you just have to be aware not to walk into an op like sitting in here, or like somebody who maybe caught an insane timing and like walked in and is playing this angle, right? You have to always be worried about this kind of stuff by like jiggling stuff like this and walking in here and clearing stuff like that. And then it's even common to throw a molly into hut like this, because some people like to be playing right up in here with like an MP9 or something, or a pistol. So you just want to be able to clear all this stuff out and, you know, make it easier for your team to go upper, or deny information from somebody who's trying to get like an early fight. If you're the door player, besides throwing this nade, you can also throw a smoke that simply lands like that. You can find your own way to do it, because obviously CTs are going to try to molly door a lot of the times if they're high level. But the point of this smoke is, again, it's information denial, right, from the main player. So if the main player is coming here and he's looking towards door, if there's no smoke here, right, he can just kind of do this and look to see if you're walking out door and just kind of play in this general area and not have to worry about, you know, maybe a flash pop coming or somebody going down the vent. He can see everything, right? But if you nade and then you throw a smoke that lands in like a similar way to the one that I threw. This one was kind of bad, but you get the point, right? It leaves a lot of questions for the CTs to try to counter you, and those give you opportunities to kill people, like people jumping on the boxes here, or maybe somebody trying to hold from top hut. You can get the entry onto them, that kind of stuff. They're going to be forced to do things like holding door. And so throwing the smoke, again, it applies pressure, just like the outside player was feeling when you threw that cross smoke as the outside lurk. And then opping on this map, it's really dependent on what the other team is doing, okay? So if you don't think that you can get a pick coming door like this at the start of the round and posting on main and killing somebody super fast, or if you think that the ramp player is opping and you don't want to try to take this really risky fight because there's so many things that you have to clear, you know, it's really super risky to do this kind of stuff, then I would say just be a 5th rifler and be ready to throw nades or like group with your teammate. Because the op on this map, it's really dependent on how the other team is playing. You can do stuff like getting boosted onto top red here. So you can have a guy stand like right in this area and you can boost on his head. And then once the smokes start fading, right? Like, shit, let me throw the smokes properly. So whatever, you can like get boosted up here. Like a lot of times oppers won't be holding for it unless you're playing against Zywoo or somebody. And then you can, you know, take fights like this and peek CT and into this Zywoo angle and stuff and start fighting like that. That's an option as an opper, but again, it's very risky, and a lot of the times 5 rifle is just as good on this map. Okay, so there's a lot of finishers on Nuke that you have to learn in order to be good at this map, and a lot of people mess them up. So I'm going to start with the easiest one, which is going lower. So a lot of the times when you're finishing lower, it means that you killed the ramp player and there's a lot of people coming ramp with you on the T side and you have all of this control, but you need to somehow get onto the bomb site safely and plant, okay? So the most common round is where you kill that guy, but then all these people could be running down the vent, they could be already in secret, they could like be close here, you know, already starting to play. In here, like maybe the windows are broken and they're already down here, okay? So the first step is to come here and smoke the single door. So I like to use this railing here, and you can do it pretty safely. You're not peeking clock or anything. You can just kind of throw it and wait for the smoke. Okay, the second thing is, again, you have to be worried about clock. And again, this is why Nuke is so CD side. There's all this shit you have to worry about. But if you killed the ramp player, there's probably nobody clock, right? Because that's a position that ramp players like to rotate down into versus like somebody's just sitting there the whole round. So you're going to come towards here as the first player and kind of scale and, you know, just kind of make space for your team while people behind you are throwing mollies like this. You want a molly that lands like by the double doors. Let me see. Yeah, that one's better. So you see how this molly is here and it prevents people from playing around this doorway, right? What you're trying to do is mitigate the risk of people playing towards this like long position and into control room. So most of the time, the strongest rounds are when you can plant the bomb, like let's say like right here by Astralis, or like right outside the door, or like right here or something if you're scared of single. And your team is playing from control. Because these angles in control room are so hard for the CTs to deal with. It's really easy to get one and fall away, or get 2 kills. Or you can play this like device angle that nobody clears and just like get 2 free kills on people running out control. All this kind of stuff makes it way easier to play the afterplane, okay? There's a very famous quote by an old IGL named Sheikh Zula. Control is the shit, all right?
And control is just the fucking shit, man. Like, getting control wins us rounds on T-side. Like, when we get lower, getting control, we will win the rounds.
The other most common finisher on Nuke is when you're coming through control here. So a lot of the times you'll come down secret and you'll be in this area around here. And you'll want to be able to go into the lower site. But most of the time you're going to have to worry about somebody who's in ramp, right? So first things, you're going to have to shoot the glass, obviously. And then let's think about how people are going to hold from ramp. A lot of the times it's hard to tell if somebody's going to be on one of these sides, right? Because somebody could be holding like this with an op, but you're in control and you don't see this person, right? And a lot of other times maybe a rifler is playing like this and you can't see if he's here or not, right? It's pretty hard to tell. So what I want you to do is, this is really easy as a solo player because a lot of the times somebody is going to have a molly and a smoke left, especially if you're like 2 people here, you can both do this. So the easiest thing I like to do is to smoke this angle because somebody can obviously be playing back here, right? And then molly this side because there's not really any gain to be had from playing back like this. So the way we're going to do that is, you see this gray box right here, I just aim above it and run throw. And it's going to be an easy smoke that blocks off all these sight lines. And then you can just simply molly the left side like this. And so the reason we do it like this and not in reverse is just based on the angles, right? If I smoked this side and then tried to, I guess you can molly like this, somebody can be playing behind here with the molly, right? So you don't want to do it like this. You want to do it the other way. And then if you have extra nades, you can just drop a molly into here And then I think the best flash is to throw a flash into Valley like this, because if somebody's playing in clock, for example, like let's say they're playing like this flash is going to force them to tuck. Or if, you know, they're maybe playing Dupree or Gray, whatever you call this flash is going to be really hard to turn from if it lands in the middle. And then everyone can just kind of flood the site at that point. A more advanced way to finish lower, I really like this method. I think it still works in CS2, but it requires 2 players. One, you're going to come here with the smoke, and you're going to crouch at this point right here and then stand up, okay? And then while you're doing this, you're gonna tell your teammate, okay, on 3, I want you to open the door. So 1, 2, 3. And then as he opens the door, you're going to throw your smoke like this. And this smoke gives you a ton of cover from people playing from ramp here, right? Because they can't see you run out into the site. The point is that now this player, who's probably playing somewhere in clock, is gonna have to worry about 2 different ways of you to come through the smoke. And I think the strongest way is to come through like this, on this side, and scale here, because you're safe from all of above you. You don't have to really worry about it. And you can, you know, maybe kill a guy clock after coming through the smoke. Let me rethrow it. So the smoke comes out and you have a surprise on somebody wherever he's playing. You can also combo this with a flash. You can just use the same lineup. So you stand up and you're aiming at the same spot and you can just flash. And your teammate can run out whatever way he wants to, right? As long as he's not getting blinded by your flash. Okay, so the first thing we want to think about with a normal A-site finisher, like a lobby execute, or just an A-site execute with no control, is we need to look at what this execute looks like, right? Because there's so many things we have to deal with on A-site, seemingly, but a lot of nades will cover a lot of things, okay? So the first thing is you want to have somebody smoking main. And this is arguably the most important piece of utility to throw. So I'm assuming you have door broken open. So if you're confident that nobody's going to peek you, you can just smoke it like this. And it's really forgiving, right, with the smoke mechanics. But if you want to throw a safe one, you just come and get like kind of stuck in this corner here. You aim like this. And then a lot of the times door is going to be smoked, right? But you can come and just walk along this back wall without moving your mouse and then run forward. And so with the door smoke being there, it's going to look like this. All right, so I'm aiming in the middle. I walk back. And again, it's kind of hard to see where the where main is with the smoke up. But again, you can just throw it like that with this lineup. And then with main being smoked, you're going to want to throw mollies to clear out areas. So a lot of the times you're going to want to molly top hut. You're going to want to molly something like Asian here. And then maybe you can molly backside, but you don't really need this molly. But the most important ones are top hut and Asian. And so Asian is like insanely easy to throw. You just left click one like that. It's obvious. But top hut is where it starts to get kind of hard. So you jump up like this, and I'm just tapping W once to be right here on this right side. And then I'm just looking at this line that's next to this window, and I'm running forward and left click throwing. So you can see on the cam, it lands like that, and it covers all of top hut, and even maybe gets Tetris here. And then for flashes, we want to blind as many angles as possible. And so the most OP flashes are something like this. You come on this wall, and then I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jump throw like that. And so this flash is going to destroy people who are playing like back sight like this, right? And it'll also destroy people who are on top hut. They're like looking like this, right? So it'll blind them as you pop. This flash is really good for back sight though in heaven. People who are like wide out here, like holding heaven, right? Because then it'll get them too. And so the main smoke, the top hut molly, and then a flash similar to this are like the necessities, okay? But you can add so many more nades to this execute. For example, if you're this player here and you smoke main and you molly Asian, you can also call that you're flashing into main as well for your teammates. And then you don't want to blind your teammates who are like running out, so you throw this one very early. So if you're the hut player and you're doing this pop, you can add this flash also. You just come into this corner right here. Like obviously you clear everything. You pull your flash out, you aim at this pip right here, and then it's gonna pop behind the door like that. So you can actually run out with it. So you might want to practice just throwing it and like not worrying about the flash being in your face, right? Because it's gonna pop behind the door. You can run out without having to like look to see if it landed. It's like a guaranteed land if you do it right. So you can run out like that. But the most important thing for this A finisher is that people are routing together and they're popping as soon as the flash pops, right? Because if you wait just an extra like half second, this execute get totally fucked up and you lose the round immediately. But the point is that if you have semi-competent teammates who can throw nades like this, just ask one of them, okay, bro, can you smoke main? And then everybody pop off my flash. And so if you're playing like up here, then you're this guy calling the execute. It's like, okay, let's throw. Smoke goes out, molly goes out, and then you can also flash in the same way, like on this top thing. This is also a decent flash. Or you can get your teammate to come here and throw this flash. But the point is that everybody's popping off the flash, okay? That's like the most important thing for this execute. All right, the other finisher that I want to talk about is splitting through main. So what this requires is that you push the CTs back in some way outside to where they're not going to expect you to come in through main like this. And so I see a lot of the times people will throw these smokes and then they'll have somebody try to walk through them. This happens in pro a lot where somebody walks through the smoke and then gets a kill on the top hut guy, right? Or they throw a smoke that lands like here. Like you just pug one a lot of the times. Let me get rid of these smokes. So like you can just pug a smoke like that. Flash deep outside like this, right? It's something simple like that and just like run in and split hut. Or you can also drop top main at the start of the round and just like do it immediately. Like this is like the famous twist call on Nuke against Na'Vi.
And the hole.
Do you consider that?
He did.
He sees him! And he slaps him down! Back of the skull!
No, looking!
Breaks Navi's backs!
Where he just comes in and gets 3 kills from main, right? Because they're not expecting it in such a crucial overtime round. But when you do this main split, it's really important that people who are in lobby are not dying to a stupid push or peeking way too early, right? You want the main player to be peeking right at the same time as the lobby player. So as the people who are playing in lobby, you have to use your radar to see right when this player is starting to go out of main. So like he'll be right around here peeking, and then that's when you should be peeking the site as well, okay? You don't want to go earlier or later because it's going to be hard to trade. And so a lot of the times, if you're doing this main split, somebody will like be on site here. So you as this hut player have to be ready for everything. You have to be ready for Mustang, right? You're ready to trade from Mustang, right? If this guy's here, then you have to come out hut and kill him. Or if he's back site, you have to just do things like quickly clear this and then go and trade this guy. Or like just destroy the heaven player, that kind of stuff. A lot of times people will be doing stuff like that on these kind of rounds. And then the last idea of a finisher that I want to talk about is splitting outside. So something that's really common in high-level Nuke that doesn't really happen a lot in lower-level Nuke is people on T side forget that this part of the map is even accessible as T's, and they just kind of think that it's like it's not possible to get outside because we just get destroyed every single round, right? So I don't even know how to split heaven. It's really simple. This happens a lot of the time when it's like a 4v4 or a 3v3, and you've killed people who are outside, or you've killed people who are somewhere else around the map, and you think that their teammate is going to rotate in and pick up a spot, right? Like let's say you killed a ramp player, the heaven player, he has to go pick up a ramp, right? So now outside is weaker than it was before when this guy was like playing here towards outside, right? And so most of the times, if let's say at the start of the round or later into the round, you had a teammate smoke top main, or you just do it like this, right? Where you just like pug a smoke like that and it lands in main, right? You're trying to block the main player from getting information. I've seen this smoke being used recently. Not gonna lie, this smoke is kind of hard, but you aim like this and it smokes hell. But the point is that a lot of the times you can just finish through heaven, and this happens when there's a gap. That's like the main similarity between when things are happening. So when there's a big gap towards outside, a lot of the times you'll be able to get up into heaven and like kill somebody who's not paying attention Asian, or like walk into A site and, oh, it's actually clear. This guy's probably pushed lobby. That type of shit, you know? But the main idea of going outside like all the way around is that you really don't want the CTs to just be able to completely give outside with no punishment, right? If you think that the CTs are noobs and they're rotating super obviously and you can go outside all the way towards heaven or like even flanking ramp, then just go take the timing because you think that you have it open. Why not just go take it? And if it doesn't work, then you learn why it didn't work. Maybe somebody made a bad rotate or a bad call, but those are the things you have to try to experiment with on Nuke because this map is so CT-sided that sometimes you just gotta take those gambles. So I think it's really important to talk about the plant spots on Nuke too, because we're trying to milk everything we can out of these rounds to, you know, not lose them on T side. So plant spots on Nuke are super important for how the retake is played, because if you were to plant right here, right on this side, and your last teammate is in heaven, now this CT, right, he can stick the bomb and it makes the round much harder. But you also have to consider that if you plant right here and your teammate's heaven, the CT was probably gonna like have an easier time of playing because he can go between these two angles after he taps the bomb. So I like to plant somewhere around here on Nuke. And the reason for doing this is that it's a very open plant spot, right? And so once you're taking the site and you have this smoke up and you maybe have heaven mollied or something, you can a lot of the times pretty safely plant in like a spot like this or like right here, you know, because you're kind of concealed when your body is this far down. Like I can see if I can try to do it on third person. Or you see how low I am to the ground, right? So you can plant here pretty safely. And you want the retake to be as easy as possible with doing stuff like this, but so sometimes in these rounds, you're gonna be planting a bit later after the main smoke has already been up for a while, and as it's fading, right? Like if you're gonna try to run into sight and plant right now, there's a really high likelihood that you're just gonna get peeked and die. It's super common for this guy to just like come peek you and fall off, right? If he hears the plant come off. So you really wanna be thinking about all these things. And like I said, for the billionth time, this map is extremely hard sometimes. And these are things that you have to consider while you're playing. When I'm playing, these are things that I'm considering when I'm planting the bomb, specifically on A site. On lower, it's very similar to how you want to play in upper, where a lot of things aren't going to be safe sometimes, right? So there's inherent risk if you don't have any control of long or anything, and the double doors can be opened by the CTs and they can just kill you planting Astralis. So a lot of the times when this smoke is up, you're going to want to plant in positions that are like this, or like off of Astralis, like not exactly here, but like maybe here. I really dislike when lower level players just come in, like they have all of lower, and it's a 4v4 and there's no risk of the CTs being close, and they just run like this and plant here. Like, why are you planting here? You know, this gives the CTs so many more options to like accidentally win the round by like running up and defusing or like tapping the bomb and making you think like, oh shit, he could be like behind there, and then you die to him peeking over here, right? Like stuff like that is just so troll. So you want to plant like super in the open. That's the advantage of B site and why it's so hard to retake, is that the bomb is like most of the time planted in like some insane spot like this, where the CT just has to come and like plant his ass on the bomb, and he has to do a 360 to try to kill you, right? Like it's just never gonna happen most of the time. But like, let's say your teammates are all playing in like ramp and it's like a 3v3. You want to plant in a spot where it's open to ramp, right? So like this is a spot, or like this is a better spot that's like open to ramp right here, so that if the CTs ever try to come defuse the bomb, like your teammates can just like have a very easy time of peeking this and just getting a free kill on the guy defusing, right? You want to always be thinking about stuff like that. You never want to just like do an AI plant like right here and then die to a door spam, or like die to another guy opening the door. Like this is the most AI plant ever, okay? Only do this if you have to. Guys, have you ever noticed this fucking ring on the map, by the way? I've literally never seen this before. It's like just like a white like halo. If you like this video and want to see more like it in the future, be sure you're subscribed for future videos, because I'm planning on doing this for every map and every side. I'm almost complete. I've got a few more maps to do, but stay tuned for those videos because they're going to come in the near future. And that's all for this video. Peace.